call the meeting of the Industrial Board of the City of Morristown to order. Call roll, Madam Secretary.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Ms. Briggs? Here. Dr. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Coley?
Here.
Mr. Crane?
Here.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes?
Mr. Grigsby?
Here.
Mr. Heiss? Dr. Lynch? Mr. Ramsey?
Here.
Ms. Schuhart? Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Stroud?
Here.
Mr. Swan?
Here.
And Ms. Wiggington?
We have 12 members present. The quorum is here. The chair would ask your permission to add one item to the agenda that was mailed out by unanimous consent, and that is we need to also approve the debt management policy for the industrial board. Is there any dissent? If not, we'll add it to the agenda as an item. You have before you the summarization of the minutes of June 12, 2013. The chair, this is a summarization of the minutes. The chair will entertain a motion for approval of the summarization.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the minutes reflect that the summarization was reviewed.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Grigsby, second. All those in favor, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion is carried. The first item on the agenda is consideration and approval of authorization of documents for Massengill Springs Tech Increment Financing, and turn that over to Mr. Fouch.
Again, you received, and there should have been, you probably received two separate sets of documents for this financing. And the reason for that is the bank is being represented by Bill Argabright, who's with Hunter Smith and Davis. Hunter Smith and Davis also does a lot of the TIF financing in the Tri-Cities area. Because Mark had been on vacation, the two of them decided that they would, as opposed to Mark preparing all the documents, that they would sort of split them. So you got one set that came prepared by Bill Argabright and some other documents that were prepared by Mark Mamontoff at Bass Berry. Most of the specific TIF documents were in the documents that Mark sent. Okay. I believe we've had quite a bit of discussion about TIF and TIF financing. Again, we're conduit financing. We are Massengill, or BB&J, the developer from Massengill Springs, is borrowing $2.5 million for road, what are defined in the documents as road improvements and utility improvements to the that will benefit both the project as well as the surrounding area. The bank, we are issuing our bond to the bank. BB&J is issuing a note to us. We assign the note to the bank as additional collateral for the bond. We also assign the other documents to the bank. The payments are due from the developer, from BB&J. They pay any amount, or they are obligated to pay any amount above what any increase in the taxes on the property within the project are. The bond is for a 20-year period. If the bond is paid off before that time, the TIF goes away. Okay. Are there questions?
How specific? I was curious, in the development agreement, like we're talking about the developer obligations. How specific, Bill, do we need to be in terms of, we're building a road, but they've indicated they're going to build a road that includes sidewalks, And also, we talked about signals, modifications to existing signals. I know it's in their best interest to put a signal up, but we don't actually say that. How specific do we need to be there?
Okay. I panicked when I first got these and was looking over them last night because I knew in the other bond issue, in the other TIF that we have, there is a budget, okay, that is broken down. And when I was looking through these, I didn't find it. Okay, if you noticed in the documents when you read them, there was a reference to a disbursement agreement, and you don't have a disbursement agreement. The reason you don't have a disbursement agreement is that agreement is between the developer and the bank. Okay, that's where that document is. That is what we require and we have to have in doing those. The disbursement agreement has attached to it a budget line item of what items are there. Disbursements may only be made in accordance with that. So if they don't put in, for instance, the stoplight, then they can't make a draw for that portion of the funds. Okay?
That was
That's
included,
also-
that was also included in what we approved, if I recall.
Yes. Okay. The other thing is, and that's what I look for also, that's where the requirement, if you remember, that the disbursement has to be accompanied by a certification from an independent architect in the AIA form, that in fact that work has been done, those monies have been spent, that material is on site. So it's referenced in the documents that you have, so there will be that document in the final, in the final closing package.
So are you saying that in that document it does allow for those expenses in this construction agreement between the bank and the IDB and J?
Allows and requires.
Okay.
Bill, I have several questions.
Okay.
The first is, I understand that $12,500 or $12,500,000 it must be spent in the project area to qualify for the $2.5 million. Is that correct?
The guidelines that the board adopted in trying to come up with a guideline of how much we would allocate does talk about a 20%. That is a guideline. In other words, it's not part of the statute. The statute doesn't say TIF monies will be allocated only BLIP.
But it's a part of our policies.
Part of our guidelines and policies.
Talk about it, Marshall.
And I guess what, on page 3 of the document, what I looked at, it asks a date. And I think it's a lot like the Health and Ed Board date. It's open until the project is closed, but a good, I think, I wouldn't say a policy, but a guideline we could go by is to put a time limit on when they can spend that money, or how quickly we want them to spend that money. I think 10 years is reasonable. If development's not gonna happen, or they're not gonna spend the money within 10 years, I think then possibly we could let Bill or Mr. Mamontoff add in something about if improvements are not completed by this date, or the 20% investment qualifier isn't met, then the TIF ends. And that way, it lets the development have 10 years to go, and if they've not developed it or invested the money in 10 years, then, it's probably not gonna happen. So it would alleviate us in 10 years of the project if we don't think it